So let us start off. We'll chant the prayers together. Om Sadashiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam
वन्दे
Vande Guru Parampara.
गुरुपरम्पराम्
Om
ॐ
Sahana Bhavatu
सहनावतु
Sahanau Bhunaktu
सहनौ
Sahaviryam Karvavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So we'll just chant the Shanti mantra and then we can start. Om Bhadram Karneभिः शृणुयाम देवाः भद्रं पश्येमा अक्षभिर्यजत्राः स्थिरङ्गैः सुष्ठुवागुंसस्तनूभिः व्यशेम देवहितं यदायुः स्वस्ति न इन्द्रो वृद्धश्रवाः स्वस्ति नः पूषा विश्ववेदाः स्वस्ति नस्तार्क्ष्यो अरिष्ठनेमिः स्वस्ति न बृहस्पतिर्दधातु ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः. So we are on the 10th mantra of the second khanda of the second adhyaya, second chapter, second section, 10th mantra. So let us just chant the 10th and the 11th mantra and then we will start. न तत्र सूर्यो भाति न चंद्र तारकम्
न तत्र सूर्यो भाति न चन्द्रतारकम्
नेमा विद्युतो भान्ति कुतोऽयमग्निः
नेमा विद्युतो भान्ति कुतोऽयमग्निः
तमेव भान्तम् अनुभाति सर्वम्
तमेव भान्तम् अनुभाति सर्वम्
तस्य भासा सर्वमिदं विभाति
तस्य भासा सर्वमिदं विभाति
ब्रह्मैवेदम् अमृतं पुरस्ताद्
ब्रह्मैवेदम् अमृतं पुरस्तात्
ब्रह्म पश्चाद्
ब्रह्म पश्चात्
ब्रह्म दक्षिणतश्चोत्तरेण
ब्रह्म दक्षिणतश्चोत्तरेण
अधश्चोर्ध्वं च प्रसृतम्
अधश्चोर्ध्वं च प्रसृतम्
ब्रह्मैवेदं विश्वमिदं वरिष्ठम्
ब्रह्मैवेदं विश्वमिदं वरिष्ठम्.
Okay, so this is a mantra which you all are familiar. So in keeping with the new style, I will first explain the words. So na tatra suryo bhati. So tatra refers to Brahman. So the suryo bhati na bhati. The sun does not shine there. Na chandra na tarakam. Nor the moon nor the stars. Na ime vidyuto bhanti. Nor this lightning shines over there. So this shine we have to take as illumines. So na tatra suryo bhati. The sun does not illumine. What? Brahman. Tatra Brahman. Na chandra na tarakam. Nor does the moon illumine Brahman. Nor do the stars illumine Brahman. Na ime vidyuto bhanti. This lightning also vidyutaha. It does not reveal Brahman. Then kutaha yam agnihi. How can this Agni? So this Agni refers to the Diparadhana. You know that you do the Aradhana with a small lamp in your hands. So he is saying when these heavenly, Jyotihi, shining lights cannot illumine Brahman, Kuto yam Agnihi, how can this little lamp in my hand, that earthly lamp, how can it ever reveal Brahman? And then he gives a reason. Tameva bhantam. Indeed, he shines. He who shines. Tameva bhantam. He only shines. And sarvam anubhati. All shine after him. Brahman is the revealer. Sarvam anubhati. Everything is revealed After him meaning is revealed by Brahman. It revealed because of Brahman alone. And Tasya Bhasa, his Brahman's light, Sarvam Idam Vibhati, illumines all this. Okay, so in brief, the sun cannot illumine that Brahman, that Atma. The moon and the stars cannot illumine that Atma. The flashes of lightning cannot illumine that Atma of Brahman. How then can this lamp in my hand, this small little lamp, how can it illumine that Brahman? So everything shines after that Atma alone. So after that Atma means everything shines, everything is revealed because of Brahman. Brahman alone reveals everything. Brahman is the one who shines and reveals everything. Everything else, Sarvamidam Vibhati, everything else shines because of Brahman. It is revealed by Brahman alone. Everything else is reflected light only. So in some other Shruti, you talk about Jyotisham Jyotihi, the light of all lights. So he's saying that Brahman, the Atma, is self-revealing. There is no other light which is required to reveal it. And then because of that, he gives a list of powerful lights. So, na tatra suryo bhati. Why are stars not seen in the daytime? It's not that they are not present. But stars shine only because of the sun. Just give me a second. I'll just close the window. I think there's a sound coming from there. Yeah, sorry. So that now the sound is much better. Okay, so he says that Tatra Surya Bhati, the sun cannot reveal the Brahman. For example, stars. Stars are not seen in the daytime, right? So it is not as if they are not present. A similar statement, the sun is dependent upon Brahman for its very existence and for our perception also. So without that Brahman, this sun cannot be seen. It is Brahman who gives us the consciousness required for our eyes to function to be able to see the sun. So this is the understanding. Na tatra surya bhati. It's not that the sun reveals Brahman, but because of Brahman alone, we have that facility to see. And when our eyes reveal the sun, it is to be taken as Brahman alone reveals the sun. Well, Brahman gives consciousness to our eyes. Similarly, na Chandra Taraka. The moon and the sun, same analogy has to be applied. Similarly, na ime, so nema has to be broken. Na ime, not these. Vidyuto bhanti. So all Vidyuto is lightning. Also has the meaning of electricity, but here it is lightning. Na ime vidyuto bhanti. All these lights, they require another light to see it. And the sun itself requires a light. And what is that? That light is Brahman's light. Brahman's consciousness is required for the sun to be seen. To use the sun to see Brahman is like trying to use moonlight to see the sun, which shows a inadequate understanding of moonlight, because the light of the moon exists not independently, but because of the sun itself. What we call moonlight is nothing but sunlight reflected on the moon. So that moonlight is dependent upon the sun. Having said all this, he says, Kutaha ayam agnihi. How can this light of the diya, of the lamp with which I am doing the paradhana, how can that lamp be said to reveal Atma? Atma cannot be revealed by any of the lights, not even the most brilliant of heavenly lights. And therefore, this feeble little lamp, how can it reveal? So not only this external lights cannot reveal, because of the fact that Brahman is that which causes the sense organs to be functional, the sense organs also cannot reveal Brahman. The mind also cannot reveal Brahman. Why? Same argument. The moonlight cannot reveal the sun because the moon itself is a reflecting medium, and the moon, what we call moonlight, is the light of the sun which is reflected off the moon. What we call our indriyas, the functional sense organs, they are functional only because of the light of consciousness, and therefore the indriyas cannot reveal the original source because of which they are conscious. Same with the mind. The mind also cannot reveal because the mind is conscious only because of Brahman. So in short, what is being said is, any instrument of knowledge, pramanam, will fail to reveal the Atma or Brahman. No pramanam can reveal Atma. That is why in the Bhagavad Gita, in the 2nd chapter, we said that Atma is aprameya, sarva pramana agocharam, cannot be grasped by any praman. Why? Because what is revealed can never become the revealer. What is revealed is the indriyas by Brahman, and the revealed can never become the revealer. So Atma is not an object which is revealed by any pramana. Then how do we know that? How do we know Atma? Atma is to be known as I myself, using the pramana. The pramanam is not necessary for revealing Atma. Atma is self-revealing. I am aware of the Atma all the time, because every act of consciousness, whenever I am conscious, that consciousness alone is Atma, alone is Brahman. What pramanam tells me is that consciousness which you are aware of, because of which you are aware of other things, that consciousness itself is you, Atma, Brahman. And therefore you have to say Aham Brahma, Aham Virajam, Aham Nishkalam, Aham Shubhram. All these words we have seen in the last few verses. Aham Jyotisham Jyoti. I am the light behind every light. I am that final source of consciousness, because of which anything in this world is available, is revealed to me. And that is why in Sushupti Avastha, I, the Atma, am present. As what? As pure consciousness. Because the RM, the mind, is inactive at that point of time, the mind is resolved. And therefore, at that point of time, the mind has no thoughts. And even though I am present, the mind is resolved, and therefore it is not functional, and therefore the sense organs cannot be activated. All the power, all the consciousness flows through the mind into the sense organs. Without the mind, sense organs are not active at all, because there is nowhere to where it can give its inputs. So during Sushupti Avastha, I do not know. But when the sleep is over, when the deep sleep is over, the mind wakes up. So this again, now we need to do some mananam. Normally we say I woke up, but here from now onwards, when I wake up, the I refers to the mind. When sleep time is over, when Sushupti is over, my mind wakes up. I do not wake up, right? Because I do not sleep also. I, the Atma, have no avasthas, neither Sushupti, nor Jagrat, nor Swapna. I just am. I am pure consciousness. What wakes up is the mind which is blessed by the Atma. So I bless the mind blesses the sense organs. Through that activated sense organs, the perception of the world occurs. And therefore he says, Tameva bhantam anubhati sarvam. Because of you alone, everything in this creation is revealed because of that one Atma Jyoti alone. So Sarvam Anubhati. Anubhati is experienced because of what? Tam eva bhantam. That light of consciousness only. Tam is that light of consciousness. Bhantam. Tam eva. Only because of that light of Brahman. So that Brahman, because of Brahman, the mind bhati, the mind is active, the mind is revealing other things. So only if mind is bhati, if mind reveals, then if mind shines, then Indriyas anubhati. So this is the sequence. Brahman bhati or Atma bhati, it shines. Therefore, mind is revealed. Then mind shines because of being blessed by Atma. So mind bhati. What is revealed? Indriyas. So Indriyas anubhati. Anu is like used in the sense of following or because of. So Brahman bhati, mind anubhati. Because Brahman shines, the mind shines as reflected consciousness. Mind bhati, because mind shines, Indriyas anubhati. Indriya shyness RC. Indriyas bhati, then objects anubhati. Objects are known. So if the mind shines, then only the tongue bhati. Tongue is active. If tongue is bhati, then ice cream anubhati. Ice cream can be tasted. So when does the mind anubhati? Only when Atma bhati? Yes. Only when Atma is shining, then only the mind can anubhati, can shine as a consequence of the mind shining. But that verb anubhati, it stops with mind. For Atma, you cannot say anubhati, because when does Atma shine? All the time. So there is no anubhati for the Atma. And therefore he says, tasya bhasa sarvamidam vibhati. Bhasa is that light of consciousness. Tasya bhasa. By the light of that Brahman's consciousness, which is what? Which is Atma's consciousness. Atma I am, therefore by my light alone. Sarvam idam vibhati. This entire universe is revealed, is illuminated. Why? Because that very same Brahman is shining as the cause of the illumination. So Shankara says very beautifully in his commentary that Brahman is the shining entity. It shines as the cause of the illumination. It is a karanam for the illumination. At the same time, that same Brahman is shining and illuminated as different nama rupa. So he says, Yateva tadeva Brahma bhati. As the karanam, Brahma shines. And yatevam tadeva Brahma vibhati. Vibhati here refers to multiple forms. So, vividhena bhati, shining in different forms. And therefore, when there is multiplicity, you have to understand it as karyam, the product. When there is singularity, non-duality, that is karanam, the cause. And therefore, he says the very same one non-dual Brahman, which is the cause of the shining, is also the karyam, the product in various different forms. From this example, the self-revealing nature of Brahman has to be understood. Why? If sun, let us say sun reveals Brahman, what is the problem with that? If you are saying that, as apparently this mantra says, that the sun, supposing the sun reveals Brahman, which is being contradicted in the mantra, but supposing that is true, supposing we accept that because of sun alone, Brahman will be revealed. That means the existence of Brahman will be revealed by the sun. What is the problem with that statement?
That a limited vastu can reveal something that is infinite.
That is
Well,
one. But more importantly, when you say something is revealed by the sun, that means the existence of Brahman is going to be revealed by the sun. That means what? The existence of Brahman is dependent on the sun. And therefore, we have to understand that is not true, because Brahman is independent. And we should therefore carefully note here that anything in the world, in fact, the entire world itself, cannot be experienced without Brahman experience being there. Because you are experiencing Brahman all the time, therefore only you can experience any object in the world. And if you have seen the argument so far, Shankara is not, or perhaps deliberately, not clearly differentiating between Saguna Brahman and Nirguna Brahman. Between Ishvara and pure Brahman, he doesn't distinguish. He is using those words interchangeably. And there is a purpose in this. It is to show us that there is no difference between Saguna Ishvara and Nirguna Ishvara. And therefore he says in his commentary that this Parameshvara is in the form of consciousness itself. Bharupatvat. That Parameshvara has nothing but consciousness itself. And the moment we say consciousness, we have to recall those discussions in chapter 2 of the Bhagavad Gita. Consciousness is not a part, not a product, not a property of matter. Consciousness is an independent entity, not bound by spatio-temporal bounds of matter, continues after matter is destroyed, and surviving consciousness cannot be interacted with, cannot be recognized because the reflecting medium is not there. Okay. One more small little thing. If you look at the mantra, you will see that there is bhati, and there is bhati is in the first line, na tatra suryo bhati. And in the last line, he says, tasya bhasa sarvamidam vibhati. Two verbs have been used, bhati and vibhati. Okay. Why do we use two verbs when the idea is the same? So there is a significance for the use of the vibhati. So vibhati is simply bhati, the verb, prefixed with vi. Okay. And when Atma is shining by itself, that is as OC, we say Atma bhati. But when that Atma, now here is a discussion which we had in that class, yesterday's class also. When the Atma is shining independently by itself, Brahman is shining independently, we call it bhati. That is the OC. But when that consciousness is manifest through the mind, it is the RC. And therefore, here Shruti uses the word vibhati. So when the mind illumines the world, and therefore the consciousness the RC seems to belong to our mind. But in reality, that power belongs to OC only, to Atma only, right? For example, on a dark night, let's say on a very dark night, you are able to walk out because of a shining moon. But basically that moonlight is nothing but sunlight only. And here, the term vibhati, because it is used for consciousness manifest through the mind, you have to understand vibhati when they say, it means multiple minds. So multiplicity of products, karyam is indicated. So bhati is one non-dual Atma. Vibhatis are many multiplicity of minds. So the word vibhati has an etymology. Vividam bhati, iti vibhati. That which shines in very many ways, in multiple ways, that is vibhati. So two words are being used here. One is Brahman is original OC, and vibhati Brahman is RC. Because of multiple minds, there are many RCs. And so Shankara says, because of this, Brahman directly illumines and illumines indirectly also. Because directly illumines what? It illumines the mind. And the mind illumines various other things. So Vibhati. Directly and indirectly, Brahman illumines. Shines in many different ways, through many different antakaranams, has many different RCs. So what we have to understand from here is two things. In any object which is revealed to us, which we experience, any object which we perceive through any of the sense organs, whatever be the sense organ because of which that object is revealed, Brahman is ultimately the source of that revelation, of the illumination. And this consciousness of Brahman is not borrowed from anybody. It is Brahman's only. And this is what is to be known. That there is Brahman, which is original consciousness. Brahman bhati, sarvamidam vibhati. Everything else shines after Brahman alone. So after Brahman alone is a typical usage. It is actually to be understood as because of Brahman's light, everything else is revealed. Because of the fact that Brahman, because of Brahman, we are conscious. Our minds are conscious. Our sense organs are conscious. They are capable of functioning. And therefore, whatever I see is ultimately to be credited back to Brahman. The consciousness through which I operate, my RC, is nothing but OC alone. That OC in the mind, which we called Sakshi. Okay, so we'll do the next mantra also, and then we will stop for anything which you need. So here it is. Brahmai Vedam Amritam Purastat. So Idam Eva Brahma Amritam. All this is Brahman alone. Purastad, in the front. Brahma Paschad. Brahman is there at the back also. Brahma Dakshinat. Brahman is there to the right also. Brahma Uttarena. It is on the left also. Okay. Now you know why Dakshina normally means which direction? Not the Dakshina which you give. Dakshin and Uttara. Uttara. What are the directions?
Dakshina is the south, Uttara is the north.
So here, Dakshina means right and Uttara means left. Why?
Because according to the body, in the body, the front is the Purva, the back is the Pashchima. So right and left will be Dakshina and Uttara.
Why but? What is the reason?
When you stand facing the sun, then the Dakshina is to the right.
So the sun is always in the east.
East, yes.
And this actually is when you go to the temple. Have you noticed that when you go to the temple, where do you face? The deity usually faces west, so you face the east. And therefore Dakshina is, that's the reason why it's called. Same thing we use for Surya Namaskara also. You face the sun. That is a simpler example. You face the sun, and therefore right is the south, left is the north, and Paschim, the back is the south, is the back, west, the west. Okay. So this is the reason. Okay, just only for some amusement value, but we should know why this particular interpretation of Dakshinam being the right and Uttara being the left is given. Then he says Adaha, so that we will break that word up carefully. Adash cha urdhvam. So Adaha cha urdhvam. Adaha means below, urdhvam means above. So below and above also Brahman. And then to top it all, he says, Prasrutam. Prasrutam means everywhere. So he has said that Brahman is there in the front, the same Brahman is there in the back, Brahman is there in the right, Brahman is there in the left, Brahman is above and below also, and Brahman is everywhere. And Brahmai Vedam Vishwam Idam Varishtham. Everything in this universe, therefore, arising out of these two lines, everything in this universe, Brahmaneva Idam Vrishtam, Varishtam. This Varishtam Brahma, this superior Brahman, Idam Eva. Everything here is this supreme Brahman alone. Okay. So in simple English, in running language, all this in front is Amritam Brahma. The Amritam is in the first line. Brahmaiva, Brahma, Eva, Idam Amritam. So, Idam Amritam Brahma Purastat. All this in front is that Amritam, immortal Brahman alone. So that immortal you have to supply every time. Immortal Brahman alone is in front. Immortal Brahman alone is the back, is on the right, is on the left, is above and is below, is everywhere. Therefore, everything in the universe is Brahman alone. Brahmaiva idam vishwam. So basically he's saying the universe itself is nothing but this superior Brahman. Okay, this is the plain meaning. Now, in the previous mantras, when talking about Brahman, we said that Brahman cannot be known or Atma cannot be known since it is you, the subject, right? It's not a matter for knowledge. Atma Jnanam is not a matter for knowledge. It is claiming yourself as Atma. That is Atma Jnanam. And earlier it was said that whoever knows the Atma knows Brahman. Okay. So now I have learned to claim that I am the Atma. So far I have learned to claim that I am Atma. What should I now say? So the sequence is I am the Atma. Atma is Brahman. And therefore I am Brahman. This is the knowledge so far. Now in the previous section, Jagat was equated to Jagat Karanam. If you don't remember, you'll have to go back and see. The world was equated to the Upadana Karanam of the world, Ishvara. And therefore, if I am Atma, and because of being Atma, I am Brahman, Upanishad says here that Brahman is the, when I say Brahman here, it is Saguna Brahman, okay, because we are talking about Karanam of the universe. So it says that if you are Saguna Brahman is what? Is the creator of the universe. And therefore, you are the creator of the universe. So this understanding also we have to get. I am the actual universe is created by me alone. This jump can be a bit staggering. It's all right to say I am Brahman, I am Atman and all those things. But when you finally have to say and admit to yourself that yes, I am the creator of this whole universe, the entire creation is my creation alone. At that point of time, one has a bit of hesitation, right? So there's an example given usually. During the dream, which you have in your Swapna Avastha, you are the dreamer, right? But the dream is not projected by the dreamer. The dream is projected by the waker, because you, the dreamer, are in the dream, and in the dream, you have no way of knowing that the dream is your own projection. And therefore, Shruti also says that similarly, you have to understand that this Jagrada Avastha of yours, this universe, is another type of dream. Okay, in this connection, we talk about the three realities, right? Vyavaharika, Pratibhashika, and Paramarthika. So from the Vyavaharika portion, the relative reality, Pratibhashika, The subjective reality is the dream. So the equation between Vyavaharika Satyam and Pratibhasika Satyam, one is the reality, objective reality, one is the subjective reality. You have to extend that one step backwards. When you take Paramarthika as the objective reality, the subjective reality is Vyavaharika. You cannot accept this now because you are in Vyavaharika. Just like the dreamer in Pratibhasika can never accept the objective reality of Vyavaharika. So here, when you wake up from this Vyavaharika world, which is when you get moksha, Jivan Mukti, then only will you accept that the dream itself is Jagrata Avastha, is Vyavaharika. So in this dream example, you have to accept, I am Karanam. Everything created is Karyam only. I am Brahman, the Karanam. I am also Brahman, the Karyam. The creator I am, the creation also I am. There is really no difference. The only difference is that as Brahman, I am non-dual. As Karyam, as the product, as the universe, I have names and forms. And therefore I am multiple. Just like the pot is only a name. Different types of pots are only different names and forms added to the Karanam, which is clay. The name and form are always existing together with the gold alone, with the clay alone. The clay itself appears as the various pots. The gold itself appears as the ornaments. I myself appear as the world. So this is the logical thinking process. One more thing one corollary we have to extract from here is that since the ornaments are nothing but gold, gold will never be facing any threat from an ornament. Just in the same manner, I am the cause of the entire universe, and the whole world is nothing but Nama Rupa Karyam, Nama Rupa product. It is not separate from me at all. There is no world separate from me. And therefore, any threat which I perceive from the world to me, it is mithya alone. It arises out of not understanding that the universe is not separate from me. And therefore, I need not be afraid of the universe. And therefore he says, Brahma eva idam amritam purastat. That immortal Brahman alone, which I am, is appearing in the form of the world in front of Purastad, in the world in front of me. World behind me, Paschat, is also Brahman. The world to my right and to my left is also Brahman. The world up and the world down and everywhere else is nothing but Brahman alone. So Vishwam eva, this Varishtham Brahma, the superior exalted Brahman, idam Vishwam eva, is this universe alone, appears as this universe alone. So Vishwa, remember, covers everything, not just the physical and subtle bodies, but everything that is a product of the physical and subtle body, which means thoughts, emotions, behavior, perceptions, anything which you can think of, dreams, anything which you can think of, is born out of this physical subtle bodies. And that term Vishwa covers everything. And we say that this Vishwa itself, Vishwa means the world itself, is what? Brahman alone. Therefore, anything which you have, any thoughts, emotions, behavior, perception, however negative they are, however noble they are nothing but Brahman. Nothing exists apart from Brahman. And this was said by Krishna in the 10th chapter. Do you remember the line? Everything that is born, all sort of behavior, is born from me alone. Where does he say that? Bhavanti bhava bhutanam matta eva prataggraha. Remember that line. I think the 4th or the 5th verse. So all objects, anything which you see, anything which you perceive, anything which you sense is nothing but Brahman plus Namarupa. So when we say plus Namarupa, we can say qualified by the object, right? Namarupa is the object. And for Brahman alone, qualified by an object is any object. For example, the snake, the rope snake. The snake is Brahman, qualified by snake body. When you look at the snake, you have to know that it is Brahman alone, qualified by the body of the snake, Upadhi of the snake. Essentially, Brahman alone, there is a qualifying Upadhi, which is the snake. And interesting question here. If you love the snake, let us say there are some snake lovers. Okay, so if you love the snake, this Ananda is the Ananda which you get from loving the snake or seeing the snake. This is Brahmananda only, right? So ultimately, Brahman is the source of all Ananda. So it is Brahmananda only. And the fact that you are feeling that happiness. Do you remember what words we used for reflected happiness and original happiness? It's the same words which we used for consciousness and reflected consciousness. The Sanskrit words. Does anybody remember?
Bimba and Pratibimba.
Bimba Chaitanyam and Pratibimba Chaitanyam. Right. Pratibimba is the reflected. So if you are, let us say, feeling happy because you like a snake, remember that is Pratibimba Ananda. It is Ananda reflected in the snake body. Okay, that is the first statement. Then the second statement is, like lot of people, supposing you dislike the snake. How do you reconcile that with the fact that you are Brahman? If the snake is nothing but Brahman plus snake body, and Brahman is of course Ananda, therefore there should be only Pratibimba Ananda, right? You cannot have dislike. Dvesha you should not have. So when you see a snake and you have Dvesha, how do you interpret? So all Mananam questions. How will you interpret that dislike in your mind when you see a snake, a ferocious snake for that matter, or a tiger or a lion or whatever? What is the interpretation in Vedantic terms? Because ultimately remember that whatever the body, in terms of what we said, whatever the body, Brahman plus that particular Upadhi, ultimately Brahman alone. Because Upadhi does not exist separately from Brahman. All matter is ultimately consciousness alone, Maya. So how would you define? How do you interpret?
So Dvesha is also a reflection of Brahman, as we just said. Even negative emotions are.
Yes, but in the description of Brahman, you see only Satchidananda. Therefore, when you see something which you don't like, the interpretation should be, you know what? You like what? Peace of mind. You love an undisturbed mind. All of us want peace of mind. All of us want a undisturbed mind. And if there is anything which causes a disturbance in the mind, we dislike that thing. You are not disliking the snake per se. You are disliking the snake because it is causing a disturbance in the mind, and therefore the thing which you love, the undisturbed mind, that is not available to you when you are seeing the snake, and that is why you dislike the snake. So that love for a non-disturbed mind, that is Ananda. And when that any circumstances arise, when that non-disturbed mind is not available to you, then you dislike the object because of which the mind is disturbed. And therefore, ultimately, this dislike is founded on what? On your love of the undisturbed mind. And therefore, the dislike is also ultimately an expression of love only, of Ananda only. Does it make sense? The foundation
Acharya,
for
that's
that
a-
dislike, sorry. tell me.
No, that's a very roundabout way of going about it. Oh,
But the reason why you dislike something is because you love Ananda.
but isn't this retrofitting something to fit this definition?
No. If you didn't love an undisturbed mind, if you didn't have a yearning for Ananda, then the disturbance wouldn't mean anything to you. Because that undisturbed mind is not made available to you, your mind is disturbed. And therefore you dislike the object of disturbance, not Brahman. In fact, because of that, we say that even the dislike is founded on your love of non-disturbed mind, which is Ananda itself. So Ananda itself is the basis for dislike also. That is why we say Brahman is everything. Even dislike, Brahman is. Because it is the Ananda which is the cause of the disturbance. In a reverse way, because the disturbance is causing you to be non-Ananda for the time being. And therefore the basis itself is Ananda. Very important.
Basically, I guess it's again the dependence on something outside of you, this dependence on something that is external and a limited object. It comes down to that again, I guess.
Also, being afraid of what the snake will do to your body, and therefore body identification.
Right.
But
I
this
mean,
whole
but
thing
that's
is
also,
very,
sorry.
yeah,
sorry.
go ahead, finish.
No, so what Acharya just said about because of the harm to the body, but body preservation is also, it's been given for whatever limited period of time.
Has been given to the Jivatma.
Yes, to the Jivatma, but that is also Brahman at the end of the day. And isn't it the correct thing to try and preserve it? And therefore
you can try and preserve it without getting disturbed.
But if that initial disturbance wasn't there, then that vritti won't come at all to try and preserve the body and, whatever, run away from there or whatever.
No. When you know that the snake can, destroy the body and body is required for sadhana, it can be a very practical approach.
Yeah.
Without real disturbance.
Right. Right.
So the thing is, supposing you were able to function in a Sukshma Shariram.
Yeah.
Okay, which has got a different level of reality. So you're not different level of reality, different, it's avyakta, not available to senses. The snake can't harm it.
Yes.
So if you are functioning the Sukshma Shariram without the Sthula Shariram, the snake wouldn't disturb you.
Yes.
You would look at it very, compassionately and say that, okay, come, let it go.
Well, in the Sukshma Jagat also, Indra is also, constantly insecure and everything, right? Finally.
Yeah. So those are all for us to understand why this is happening.
Yeah.
Okay. And that is why in Chandogya, Shankara says, Vacharambanam vikaro namadeyam. Everything that is a product is nothing but a word on your tongue.
Yes.
It's just a word initiated by your tongue. There is no reality in it. So Shankara ends his commentary very beautifully on this second chapter, saying that everything that is not Brahman. See, the first statement, everything is Brahman. Okay. Then he says, but we think that something is not Brahman also, right? So he says, anything that is not Brahman, not Brahman thought actually. So he says, Abrahma pratyaya, he says. That thought that something is not Brahman. For example, the snake is what? Avidya matre. Avidya matra means avidya only, which has to be understood as adhyasa. Is a superimposition upon that Brahman. Just like Rajvam eva sarpa. Just like the snake is superimposed upon the rope. There is no real snake. The rope is Brahman, but there is a thought in my mind, there is a snake. That snake is only a adhyasa, is only a superimposition. Because of what? Because of avidya only. And therefore, he sums up in one word. He says, Brahma eka paramartha satyam. Brahman is the only paramarthika satyam. Iti Veda Anushasanam. This is the teaching of the entire Veda. Any vakyam you take from the Veda, ultimately when you extract it and reduce it to its condensed form, there is only one thing. Brahma Ekam. Only Brahman exists. As what? As Paramartha Satyam. As nothing else is there, whatever else you see is only name and form. And this is the teaching from this chapter. That one line is beautiful. Whatever you see as Brahman. You would have understood the Mundaka Upanishad. Okay. Any questions?
The discussion about Ananda, reflected Ananda coming from objects,
Yeah.
and that we tend to like the object. That's a very subjective thing, as well as isn't it in a self loop? Like, because the object gives me Ananda, I have raga on it. Because there is Ananda, I have, like, they both are dependent on each other.
They are both dependent upon a misunderstanding. That it is the object which gives me Ananda. The confusion of Pratibimba Ananda as Bimba Ananda, that is the whole problem. So you know the story of the dog and the bone, right? It is that same story. Do you know the story of the dog and the bone? I hope everybody knows. Anybody doesn't know the story of dog and bone? Okay, everybody knows.
Acharya, I'm not sure if I know it. I've played Dog in the Bone in school, but I don't know the story. I think.
No. Anybody want to explain what is the dog and bone story?
The dog is chewing on a dry bone,
Okay.
and the bone is dry. It has nothing to offer to the dog, but the dry bone cuts the dog's mouth and it starts bleeding. And the dog thinks that the blood is coming from the bone. It enjoys the taste.
And it bites the bone even more, and even more blood comes out. So moral of the story is that blood is not from the bone. It is from you, the dog. Similarly, that the dog's misunderstanding that the blood is from the bone, that is the cause of the dog wanting to hide that bone in the sand for next time. Attachment has begun. So our misunderstanding that objects in the world are the cause of our happiness, that is the reason for the attachment. The moment you understand that this happiness is really you yourself, and you are only seeing the reflection of the happiness, the Pratibimba Ananda is being enjoyed. You can enjoy Pratibimba Ananda, no problem, as long as you know that the Ananda is not belonging to the object. The object is only serving as a mirror. That has to be understood. Once, for the mirror itself, we have no attachment, right? You can see your face in the mirror. One mirror breaks, you get another mirror. You can still see your face. Same thing. One object goes, you can get another object. Because this happiness doesn't belong to the object. It belongs to you. That's the understanding here. Once you know Brahman Sarvam, Ananda is there everywhere. All you require is the mirror for you to experience it.
Acharya, can't the same thing? I'm sorry if it's a really terrible question, But what about, I mean, then the same thing could be said about, sadness, right? That it's not any object that gives you that sadness. Isn't it?
Well, as Swami Dayananda once said, he said that if sadness is your real nature, what is the rest of it? Veda knows. Veda, what is the rest of it?
Then you should be happy when you're sad, because you will be happy in your
In your real
nature.
nature. Yeah. So that's the story.
But here we're blaming, okay, so we're saying that your happiness is not dependent on something that is outside.
Yeah.
But then again, this sadness is dependent on something else also. It's not.
Sadness is again dependent upon a raga only. Because
Yeah.
you think that something is the cause of your happiness.
Yeah.
Number one, it gives you happiness. But what you don't realize is giving you happiness is, we understand, we accept, okay, because it's something perceivable. You feel happy, that is not a illusion. I am feeling happy when I see something. But to mistake that happiness as Bimba Ananda, that is the problem. You have to understand it as Pratibimba Ananda. And therefore know that every object can be replaced. Because you don't understand that, you develop an attachment to the object, and therefore, because you want to hold on to that object. That is the cause of sorrow.
So that anyway, so we're speaking about temporary happiness out there any which way.
Yes, yes. See,
Yeah.
temporary happiness, we should not dish. Temporary happiness is good. You eat ice cream, you see a good movie, you see some beautiful scenery, see the sun setting. All this is temporary. All this is Pratibimba Ananda. All perfectly legitimate objects of enjoyment. As long as we remember that, it is Pratibimba only.
Okay.
It is like the UPS, when the UPS is not there, Ahmedabad, of course, Ahmedabad is a different story because electricity doesn't fail. But if it is, for example, in a place in a rural area where electricity fails, when the municipal electricity is there, you enjoy it. That is Pratibimba Ananda. When it is not there, you dip inside the UPS. That is your Bimba Ananda. So you have both. You have the UPS electricity and you have the municipal electricity. Either way, you are never short of electricity.
Right. Okay.
Same thing, Pratibimba Ananda is not there, Bimba Ananda is there. That is why Jnani is always content. It is wrong to say that Jnani does not enjoy Pratibimba Ananda. Jnani likes Pratibimba Ananda. Who doesn't like? But he knows that when it is not there, he can always dip into the real source and be content.
Right. Okay. Thank you, Acharya.
But which objects generate raga and dvesha is a very subjective thing.
It's
It keeps changing.
different from person to person, yes.
Within the same person also, it can keep changing.
Depending
Over-
on time and place and circumstances. So we give the story of heat, right? Heat in summer in Ahmedabad is not pleasant. But heat in the middle of December in Siberia, well, it's pleasant or unpleasant.
It's pleasant.
That's what. Everything depends upon time, place, circumstances. Once you withdraw yourself from these three things, Desha, Kala, Vastu, then that is Bimba Ananda. Original source is there.
I had one more question about the previous line. You mentioned that in Sushupti Avastha, what is there is consciousness only because the mind is resolved.
Yeah.
So is that Sakshi from yesterday's discussion?
Sakshi is there everywhere, okay? Everywhere in the sense that in the body, wherever there is consciousness, all the three avasthas, consciousness is there. In Jagrata Avastha, consciousness is mixed with your active mind. So it's difficult to segregate. In Swapna Avastha also, it's mixed with your mind. Difficult to segregate. In Sushupti Avastha, mind is quiet, okay? But strictly speaking, we don't say there is absence of thought. There is at least that one thought, which is not a thought which has required effort of will. What is that thought? That I am comfortable. I am not experiencing any disturbance, or I am sleeping well. That thought is there, but that thought is not by active use of your will. Most thoughts depend upon the will. Of course, you get thoughts which come uninvited, but those are also, your mind is fully functioning. In the non-functional state, without the use of the will, this thought to the giving you the later on the experience that I had no experience. I am not undergoing any experience is the thought, which is not happening through a conscious exercise of your will. That is what we call sukshma vritti. The sukshma thought. Here sukshma is because there is no will involved. Conscious volition is not involved. Your mind is not functional. But still there is a thought. But since the thought is sukshma, it is not revealed. Therefore, the consciousness in the mind is as close to sakshi as you will get in sushupti avastha. There is no mixture there. Strictly speaking, this thought is there, but it is not recognized. So for all practical purposes, it is pure consciousness. That is the closest to sakshi that you can get. But in that avastha, there is something else there. What is there? In sushupti avastha, there is also ajnana. And therefore, sakshi you do not recognize. Sakshi can be recognized only in the Jagrata avastha.
That's what you'd said, Acharya, right? The OC, well, the Brahman in the mind.
Yes, Brahman
Yes.
in the mind has to be recognized by the mind, which is the RC. It's more difficult because there are other vrittis also. But in the Sushupti avastha, though vritti is minimal, there is no active mind present. There is no RC, active RC present, which can trace its lineage back to the OC. That can be done only in Jagrata avastha. That is why we don't accept knowledge in Samadhi.
Because there is no
Samadhi,
instrument of knowledge there.
there is no triputi, right? Instrument of knowledge is missing in Samadhi.
But what do they speak about? Expanded awareness at that point in time, Acharya?
I've never understood. I am very careful about words which I don't understand. So I normally just ask people, but if they're not able to explain clearly, the more I have asked about this, okay, that the only explanation I've got is you be in that avastha, then only you will know. So that makes no sense to me.
For me, the confusion between RC and Sakshi, when we say RC, it is OC plus all the vrittis, the upadhi of vrittis. That is.
Yes. The mind.
So, yes. So then when we say Sakshi, we are dismissing the upadhis.
They're dismissing the upadhis, but in dismissing the upadhis, you are using the upadhi.
Yeah, that is my point. That's the confusion.
So that's why it's intellectual. You intellectually dismiss. You cannot physically separate the OC from the RC ever. So it's an intellectual separation.
It's not really a dismissal, right? You're accepting the limitation or the momentariness of one and the eternity of the other, so to speak. So it's just a recognition of that and not a dismissal of anything.
You're recognizing that the OC in the mind, which is a Sakshi, is really the cause of the RC. The RC accepts that I am actually the Sakshi.
But this Sakshi is actually not different from OC.
We use it only in terms of, Sakshi term is used only in terms of the presence of Brahman in your body-mind complex. It is not different at all. But because there is a body-mind complex and you can never really get rid of it, even in your best efforts, Therefore, you use the term Sakshi to distinguish Brahman in the body-mind complex from Brahman, Sarva, all-pervading Brahman. It's a
Like the Ghata and Akasha.
like the Ghata Akasha and Akasha. The Ghata Akasha is there. We don't say that Ghata Akasha is not there. But really speaking, it is not there.
That's okay, but then you know, RC becomes a complication in that case. There's very little difference between OC, Sakshi, and RC.
RC is very intricately linked with the RM.
Yes.
Without the RM, there can be no RC. Similarly, without the RC, there can be no Sakshi. Or the other way around. Without the Sakshi, there can be no RC. So that cause of the RC is the Sakshi. RC itself is a term which means RM plus OC.
Actually the confusion for me is that Sakshi is minus Upadhi. If we just subtract the Upadhi, we have
Brahman in your body minus Upadhi.
Yes, but in the body is still Upadhi.
Yes, but that is how we think, right?
Acharya, can we explain it like, you know, the space in a room, space outside, and in the room, say one wall is made of mirror.
Yeah.
And you see the reflection of the things in the room in that. You know, like you see, if there is one glass is all mirror, whatever is happening in the room, you see its reflection within the room.
Yes.
And then there is the outside. So all the outside is the unlimited Brahman. I mean, just a comparison. And the inside, the real space in the room is the OC. And the reflection in the mirror within the room itself that we see is the RC. Can we compare it like that?
You could, but the mirror doesn't reflect the
just
space.
For explanation. Just for explanation.
Yeah, explanation is fine. If you have a big mirror and look in the mirror and you see this massive space in your room, that space in your room which you see in the mirror, yes, that you can say Sakshi. You know, it's not simple. It's very difficult to comprehend. But the fact is, because you are Jivatma, because you are using RC, your connection to the all-pervading Brahman is more difficult than your connection to Sakshi in the body. And therefore, Sakshi is a concept introduced as a final stage. You say, I am Sakshi until such time as you can drop that Jivatvam completely. When I am Jiva goes, I am Sakshi also goes.
Won't RC and Sakshi be the same thing, Acharya, actually?
RC and Sakshi will be the same. Sakshi has to have the characteristics of Brahman. Non-doer, nothing it does.
I mean, see, the characteristics are all also just superimposed, right? So
no, Satchidananda, description.
Right.
So doing nothing, akarta, that is Sakshi. Sakshi doesn't do anything with you. Whatever does anything,
got it. Got it.
Jivatma is different from Sakshi. Jivatma's first real step is to accept that he is Sakshi. Then, and that you have to stay with that Sakshihood for some time until the I am Jivatma thing is completely gone.
Right.
So Raviji, such a person who has accepted this, that I am Sakshi, is he a Jnani or?
He's a Jnani.
Again, okay.
He's a Jnani.
So is this still Nididhyasnam processing or Nididhyasnam complete?
It's Nididhyasnam complete, but you know, my understanding is that even a Jnani continuously does Nididhyasana. It is not that he doesn't do. Which is why if you see in the scriptures, you know, these people, the sages, at one point of time, they go to the forest. Even though they're completely realized people, they go to the forest. Because they want to spend the rest of the time of left in the body in Nididhyasana. So Nididhyasana is not a process which can be discarded. Once Jnana Phalam is available to you, That is the complete non-disturbance of mind with the complete conviction that you're Brahman. Your Nididhyasana process is over. But even after that, because you have the body-mind complex, you should continue. Okay. Also, we had the discussion once earlier. Supposing you have a complete conviction that you're Brahman, your Shravanam and Mananam is over. Okay. You are completely convinced. But because of Viparita Bhavana, that is all habitual thinking patterns. Because of that, you are not, getting the benefits. You are still angry, you are still jealous, all those things are there. Does it mean you are not a jnani? Jnani is the person who knows that is Brahman.
You are not Jnana Nishtha.
You are not Jnana Nishtha. Jnana Nishtha is simply the fact that you are able to get all the phalam also. So actually, I had this doubt for a very long time. Okay, so I asked SPG. So SPG said, yes, if you are convinced that you are Brahman, it doesn't matter if you are crying bucket loads of tears every day. I have to use his words, But he added a rider. He said, because of those tears, what will happen? Your conviction might shake. That's why you should continue Nididhyasana.
Conviction might shake means that you might come out of that.
You might start doubting the knowledge.
But that is not, how is that a jnani?
So that is because of continuous flow of sorrows. Would you begin to doubt? Maybe some people won't. Some people might doubt. If I'm jnani, why am I crying all the time? That's a very, very moot point, but it's a good point to have. And therefore, even if you are very, very comfortable in the understanding that I'm Brahman, you should continue with the Nididhyasana. Even if Viparita Bhavana is not very apparent. There are many of us, I think, in this group who are reasonably comfortable with themselves and the world. But doesn't mean that you say that, okay, I won't do Nididhyasana. Because problems can shake you and therefore you keep on doing it.
Raviji, can I come back to this Ghata, Akasha and Akasha?
Yeah, please.
Can we say that Akasha is like Brahman and the Ghata Akasha is like the Sakshi? Actually, there's no difference, but okay, superficially, because of the pot, it seems like there's a difference. And suppose we fill this pot with water, which the water is like the vrittis, which is supported by space, obviously. The space is required for even water to be there.
Yeah.
So if we just say that only space is like Sakshi, but with the vrittis, that is like RC, because that is also space, but it is water that is occupying the space.
That's an okay understanding. Because what you have to see is that you should be able to dismiss the pot. When you dismiss the pot, what remains is the water also gets dismissed. Only the Ghata Akasha remains as a separate piece. Again, you are not completely dismissed the pot. So it's an advanced understanding. You have to learn to live with this sort of slight discomfort.
This makes it a little easier.
Yeah, that's fine. That's a decent understanding, yes. But as long as you remember that in the Ghata Akasha example, it is Sat, which is only, we're only talking about Sat. Chit is not there. So Sakshi means Chit.
Yeah, treating Sat like Chit in the Ghata
treating
Akasha.
Sat. Ultimately, Sat and Chit are the same, but treating Sat like Chit, the example is fine.
Yeah, because space is what supports even the water to be there. In the same way, a consciousness supports the thoughts.
And therefore, you say that the Ghata Akasha is supporting the water.
Yes.
Not the original Akasha. But the Ghata Akasha is not different from the original Akasha. It's a very good example. So that Sakshi is supporting you. not different from the from Brahman, but still different because of the
Okay,
Uttara.
now I get it. Because even water occupies space, but
Yes.
space is all
Is
can be
all-
separate thing. You can
Exactly. There is a
look at
as if limitation of space. That as if limited consciousness is Sakshi.
Okay.
Good Mananam. So in all future classes, we will try to get in some Mananam questions, because since I'm borrowing from Shankaracharya, a lot of Mananam questions are there in Shankara Bhashya, which I will present to you, and then we'll have the discussion. Hopefully understanding will be clearer. Okay, so we have one more session to go in the revision session, where we will try to complete the second chapter. And then next Saturday, we will start from the third chapter. Okay. So with this, thank you for your patience. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnam Eva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Tat Sat. Om Namah Shivaya. Thank you for your patience.
Thank you.
Thank you.